Governor's Executive Order 2020-07, issued on March 16, 2020, that suspended certain Open Meetings Act provisions relating to in-person attendance by members of a public body. The Governor's Order 1 suspends the requirement in Section 2.01 that members of a public body must be physically present, and Item 2 suspends the limitations in Section 7 on when remote participation is allowed. Public access to this meeting is being provided. This meeting is being broadcast on cable television and it is available online through the link provided on the agenda. Please go to the newly improved City of Lake Forest website where the link to meetings agendas is on the home page. Public testimony is welcome. Members of the public who wish to testify during the public comment portions of the meeting can do so by using the raise hand function on the screen or by calling 847-810-3643. City staff will be on site at the city's municipal services facility during the meeting. However, the plan commissioners will participate remotely. At this time, I'd like to introduce the members of the commission and staff, and given our Zoom format, I will call each member by name, and please raise your hand when you're called. Commissioner Freeman, Commissioner Artman-Ruggles, Commissioner Athenson, Commissioner Dixon, Commissioner Moorhead, and Commissioner Douglas. Thank you. And we're also joined tonight by Kathy Cerniak, Director of the Community Development Department in the city. Due to the length of the January meeting, consideration of the minutes of the January 13, 2021 Plan Commission meeting will be postponed until the next meeting. And so we will go right to the sole petition being heard tonight for public hearing and action. The petition before the commission this evening is continued consideration of a request for a special use permit authorizing a drive-through lane, professional offices on the first floor, and variances from setback and parking requirements for commercial development proposed on the southeast corner of Everett and Waukegan Roads. A single-story retail building near the corner, a three-story medical office building on the southern part of the site, shared parking and landscape amenities are proposed. The commission will focus on the open items from the last meeting. Property owner and applicant is 1015 LLC and 1045 LLC, whose members are Carmine Iosu, Luke and Nicole Mertens, Joshua Iosu, Megan Iosu, and Joseph Iosu. Representative for the property owner is Jack Frigo of Frigo and Associates and others. Do members of the commission have any ex parte contacts or conflicts of interest on this matter?
No.
Okay. At this time, I'd like to ask staff to promote the petitioner's representative. I see Jack Frigo and other representatives who intend to address the commission to the panel. I'll now swear in all the presenters. Please raise your right hand. All those intending to speak, I see Jack Frigo, Nick Patera, and Mr. Abuna. Do you solemnly declare and affirm that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
Mr. Frigo, we're ready for your presentation on this item. To any member of the public who would like to speak on this matter during public comment, remind you the call-in number is 847-810-3643. Mr. Frigo, please proceed.
Thank you, Chair Kirk. Kathy?
Are you ready for me to share?
Yes, please. The site plan. Let's go to the second page, please.
Give me a minute here.
While Kathy is bringing the second page up or down, I think it's, well, wherever it is, it should be the site plan that we presented when we were with you last. And two of the commissioners had expressed a concern about the right in, right out the configuration, specifically that a northbound car turning right into the parking lot that would be between building A and B, the medical office building and the coffee shop, could run into congestion if the driver wanted to turn into the small parking lot just to the south of building A. So when we see that, I'll describe it to you. Commissioner Freeman had a concern that there could be a backup there, and it really presented a point of conflict. And so that raised the question, was the right in, right out necessary at all? So we're going to address those things. We thought that the comment was good, and it made us revisit the right in, right out. And we met with the city's traffic engineer, Kathy Cerniak from the city, Luwe Abuna, who is on the call with us today, to take a look at the right in, right out, and if it was possible to reconfigure, the parking lot to make it, to relieve the situation that Commissioner Freeman had raised, the possible congestion. So that is exactly where we want to be. Kathy, if you could bring the image down, right there, great. So if you look at the right in, right out on Waukegan Road, assume you're in a car northbound, you turn right, which takes you east into the driveway. And if you wanted to go to the coffee shop and park in the small parking lot just to the south of the lot, you would then make a left-hand turn into presumably the second curb cut there, just to the east or right of that buff-colored walkway. And that was an area that Commissioner Freeman said could present some problems. And if a car was exiting from that parking lot and a car was entering, there could be a backup and congestion. And so that's what we took a look at. And we wanted to modify that. Now, if you'll note, that driveway, the right in, right out, inbound and outbound, is 24 feet wide. So if we could go to the next page, Kathy. What we did was,
There's a bar on the right-hand side.
Yeah, it's off my screen at the moment.
Sorry, okay, sorry, Jack.
Oh, that's okay, Nick. Thank you. So what we did to alleviate that potential congestion was to relocate the entrance to that small parking lot to the east side of the parking lot and close all of the curb cuts, the two curb cuts that were on the south side of that parking lot. That way, a car that was turning in northbound on Waukegan Road, turning east into the right in, would not have any conflict with a car exiting that parking lot or trying to turn into that parking lot. So they would go into the north-south driveway. And Kathy, are you able to share that screen?
Are you seeing?
There we go. Great. Yeah. Fabulous. Fabulous. Great. Thanks. So the car would then go turn right in, and you see we have a landscape median strip between the inbound and the outbound. And both of those inbound and outbound are 12 feet wide at that spot. And the car would go in and then turn left and head north, and then turn left and make a left-hand turn into that small parking lot, which you see, and it's just south or below building A. So that eliminated that potential area of conflict. And we thought that that was a really, well, we were, say, appreciative, not at the moment, but ultimately appreciative of Commissioner Freeman's concern about that. And so we improved the parking lot and the safety of the lot. And we also were able to add 2 parking spaces. So we've taken our count up to 117 on-site parking spaces. The traffic engineers, both Luwe Abuna and also Bill Greaves, the city's engineer, recommended that in order for the lot to function better, this small lot, there should be an exit at the southwest corner of it, and it would be a right out only. And that person then would continue on their way. If that's the exit that they chose, they would continue on their way northbound So they presumably came in from the south, heading north, and would exit going this in the same direction, going to the north. And the median strip would prevent somebody from turning into that driveway, that exit driveway. So it was really a good solution in our opinion, and both of the traffic engineer's opinion as well. And we think it responds to the commissioner's concern, and we think it improves the site plan. And that's often the result of the plan commission process. So Nick, I don't think we need your explanation on this, but Lou, if you could comment on it as to the importance of the right-in, right-out. I can tell you it's important for the commercial success of Building A. We wouldn't really be able to do Building A without it. And we think it's safe, although Lou will address this more, but if we didn't have the right-in, right-out, a car that was going to the coffee shop would presumably come in south of Building B and then traverse across the parking lot and across the front of the medical office building where people may be crossing, pedestrians, or loading, unloading a passenger or patient, and then head over to Building A. And we don't think that that's a safe condition. Neither did Bill Grieve or Lou. But Lou, would you speak to the right-in, right-out, please?
Sure, thank you. Again, my name is Lou Abuna. I'm a principal with KLOA. And I think Jack did a very good job of explaining the changes that have been made. This plan that you see eliminates the internal conflicts that the Planning Commission expressed at the last meeting. Cars entering the site will have a clear path all the way to the internal intersection before turning, and that leaves plenty of depth into the property without backing up traffic onto Waukegan Road. The opening to the parking lot has been changed from the south side to the east side, again removing that point of conflict more internal to the site. There'll be a barrier median along that stretch to prohibit anybody from wanting to turn left at that exit only, and also to ensure that people exiting the lot at that location can only turn right. So it definitely cleans it up and makes it a better flow internal to the site. We even went further and modified the design of the right-in, right-out and the island median to conform with IDOT standards. So we are definitely feel much better with this design, and we believe it's a significant improvement. And then, as Jack said, having this right-in, right-out is critical to ensure that the site has adequate access, and particularly for Building A, being a drive-through use, convenient access is very critical. And a lot of the traffic will be what we call pass-by traffic, which is traffic that's already on the roadway system. So it would be very important for these customers, especially the ones that are going northbound in Waukegan, to be able to enter at this right-in, visit the facility, and then exit by making a right out. Elimination of either of those movements will force traffic then to use the southern access point and would have to travel through the parking lot for Building B, and which would conflict obviously with the cars that are being parked there and the patients or customers that would be walking to and from the building, which presents an unsafe condition. So overall, we believe that this design does address the concerns, and it would be very critical to ensure the success of this development and provide a safe internal circulation for all the users.
Thank you, Lou. Kathy and Chair Kerr, that would really conclude the adjustments that we've made. So we'd be happy to answer any questions of you or the other commissioners.
Well, thank you. And at this time, I'm going to call on Kathy Cerniak to identify issues by city staff.
Thank you, Chairman Karen, members of the commission. This matter is back before you after it was continued last month with specific direction to look at the north access on Waukegan Road, look at whether it is needed, and if so, to look at the configuration from a safety perspective. and to look at the configuration of the parking lot directly to the north of that access. As Mr. Prigo and Mr. Abuna explained, there were a number of exchanges, a number of communications between Louay's office and the city's traffic engineer at DeWalt Hamilton. There were a number of different site plans, emailed back and forth, reviewed, comments sent back and forth, and then there was a time when everyone got on a call to have a face-to-face, so to speak, discussion. The plan you have in front of you does have the full endorsement from the city engineer, both our engineer and our traffic engineer. To a person, everyone that's been involved in the discussions, all of our traffic experts believe that that north access is critical to this development, to facilitate circulation, to avoid congestion. It is possible. It's in a location that has previously been approved by IDOT. Certainly will continue to work with IDOT, but to have 3 access points on this property is critical. Keep in mind that at least 4 additional access points exist on this site today. Just stepping back, what is before you tonight for action is a request for a special use permit for this overall development. The special use permit will incorporate approval of the overall site plan, approval of a drive-through for a coffee shop, approval of professional offices on the first floor of the office building, approval of a variance from the parking standards, and approval of a setback variance for the southwest corner of the medical office building. I would be happy to answer any questions. You do have a recommendation in your staff report in support of approval, and there are a few conditions detailed there in the staff report as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And now it's time for questions and requests for clarification from members of the commission to the petitioner or staff. And I will note that questions at this time should focus on the 2 issues for which this petition was continued from the January meeting. The first being reconsidering the northern access point on Waukegan Road with that right-in, right-out access. And the second being reconsider the configuration of the parking area located to the south of the coffee shop and north of the right-in, right-out access. Questions and requests for clarification at this time only, please. As is customary, commissioners will have the opportunity for comments and discussion later on in the meeting after public testimony. Commissioner Freeman?
Thank you, Chair Kerr. Just one question, and it could be Nick or Jack, whoever wants to respond to it. And you don't need to put this back up on the screen necessarily, Kathy, but when I looked at the original plan, it looked like there was like a walkway. I mean, what I'm getting at here is, by my count, I thought you picked up 3 parking spaces, that there was that shaded area that went in a north-south direction from building A toward building B. Was that a walkway that went through there, or was there like a parking space in there?
Can I take it? Commissioner, that was just a paving pattern. It wasn't intended to be a protected walkway. So that was a parking spot in its original configuration with 5 on the north. It was an 11-car parking lot, and now it's a 13.
Right, okay. I guess I didn't think that one that has like the number 5 and it was actually a parking space. It looked like a walkway. So that's great. I mean, because parking was another concern. Talk to me a little bit about access to the trash that I assume was largely serving building A there. It looks like the access to it has widened a little bit. Is that an improvement in your mind? What's the thinking around that?
Again, it's Nick Patera from Tesca. The idea would be to have a double gate trash enclosure there, but to leave enough room around it that we still can have some landscape that's important for this whole refinement that we've done, that we keep landscape important to the development as a forefront. But nonetheless, you would have a gate on the east side or 2 gates to get access to that trash enclosure. and it still opens to the east, so I can pull a trash truck up easily to it and circulate and get through my business and back out again.
Right. So is there a preference, one gate versus two, or is it just kind of a matter of what you can fit into the space, Nick? That's what I'm trying to.
It was just the space available. We wanted to make sure there was enough for dumpster and recycle in that containment.
Okay, great. And then just one question for Kathy. Again, given the size of the site, and I was being somewhat controversial in suggesting, and I just wanted to hear, the commercial reasoning behind maintaining this entry and exit. And I thank you all for being so clear about that and coming back to us. But from the city engineer's viewpoint, from emergency access to the site, Kathy, is that largely done then? And Nick, you feel free to comment if this is in your area as well. Is that largely done through the north and south entrances, southwest entrance, I guess I would call it?
What we have been told is, depending on the traffic at any particular time of an emergency call, emergency vehicles will use the most convenient and the most accessible entrance.
So there's nothing about this alteration that in any way by the city engineers or the petitioner's engineer impacts access from that perspective?
No, and most likely emergency vehicles are going to enter into one of the full access points.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Douglas?
I have no questions. Thanks.
Commissioner Atkinson?
I have no questions about this area.
Commissioner Ruggles? I should say Artman Ruggles, excuse me.
That's okay. So unfortunately, I was unable to make last month's meeting, and I had numerous questions about the site plan, the parking count, site circulation setback, building height. And I guess I can't ask those since we're limited to this right in, right out, and the parking lot adjacent to building A. But I guess if I have to limit my question to that, regarding the parking count for building, or to the south of building A, are those spots dedicated to building A exclusively, or is that for the entire site?
Those, if I can respond, Kathy, can you hear me? Am I muted or not?
You're good, Jack. We can hear you.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I couldn't quite tell where. Those are for the entire site. However, those will be time limited. So somebody could go in and get a cup of coffee and come out if they were driving on. But we'll establish some sort of time limitation for those. Also, somebody may run into building C, or for that matter, building B, as long as it worked out with within the time frame of the time limited spaces. The other spaces, Commissioner, to the east of building B, and also in front of and behind building C, north and south of building C, don't have any time limitation on them.
Okay. I don't have any other questions about those two specific areas at this time. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Dixon?
I have no questions.
Commissioner Moorhead?
I don't have any questions either.
Okay, then at this point, we will proceed to public testimony, and I will ask if there is anyone on the line who wishes to speak.
Chairman,
Yes.
we have no callers on the line. Cam, I don't see any hands raised. Do you?
I don't.
So once again, that number 847-810-3643. And we'll give it a moment or two. Chairman, we don't see any requests to speak.
Okay. Thank you. Then public testimony is now concluded. And we have final questions from the commission to the petitioner or staff. These can be directed to either, and requests for additional information that have not yet been covered. If any commissioner has additional questions, would you please raise your hand so I can call on you? Okay, seeing none, we would now have time for petitioner rebuttal, if there is any, followed by staff response to, I would say, any comments. It says public testimony, but since we've had none, it won't apply. Any additional information that you would like to make, Mr. Frigo?
No, Chair Kerr, no rebuttal.
Okay. Then we move to commission discussion and comment. And I don't know, I know it's more difficult with Zoom to have any interaction of discussion. So I will begin by calling on each commissioner. However, if a commissioner wants to follow up on a point that another commissioner has raised, please raise your hand so I'm calling you next, and then we'll continue through. Commissioner Moorhead.
Thank you. I supported this last month at last month's meeting, and I still support it. I think the request last month to review the parking and the ingress and egress was a good one, and it's produced some positive results, which I also support. So I don't really have anything else to say. I believe it satisfies the criteria in the code, and I'm supportive of the project.
Thank you. Commissioner Dixon?
I would echo what Commissioner Moorhead just stated. I supported it last month. I also agreed with the very intuitive comments from Commissioner Freeman. And I think that the petitioner's done a great job of addressing those concerns. And I think certainly the area that we focused in on tonight is a great improvement. And I'm still shaking my head in terms of exactly how it was done, but and to get 2 more spaces out of it. But that obviously serves the other need, which is additional parking there. So maybe as part of the signage recommendation to this evening, we can put up a Commissioner Freeman parking space there in that area or something to memorialize this. No, jokes aside,
I do live closest to it, so maybe I can. I intend to be a patron for sure.
So in any event, I think this will be a nice improvement to that corridor to the city, which has been long a focus of this commission and certainly an objective of the city.
Thank you. Commissioner Artman Ruggles.
So I think the development could be a nice improvement to our community. However, I have concerns that the development is overbuilt for the site. I think that the massing and square footage on the site leads to a issue with the required amount of parking spots that the development would need. So I think that the parking count is not satisfied in this development, and then moving forward, the community might find themselves with additional problems with parking if the site changes from the uses that are now being asked for. So unfortunately, I'm not in favor of the development because of the lack of parking.
Thank you. Commissioner Athenson.
So thank you to Mr. Frigo and the Ayusu family for taking on this project and trying to develop the property in kind of a character that is keeping with the surrounding area I know we struggled with that with the last time we looked at this property several years ago. And so the last couple meetings, you're well aware, I expressed my concerns about the amount of asphalt and hardscape on this property and the auto-dominated nature of the property. Because I really kind of believe that we had an opportunity here to get away from the auto-dominated character of many of the developments along Waukegan Road here. We talked about that in the comprehensive plan a lot. And one of the questions I had for you was possibly using stacked parking or underground parking to alleviate, that issue of just having a sea of asphalt. So I'm a little disappointed, given the exceptional team you've assembled here, that we couldn't come up with something that was more walkable, more pedestrian oriented, with a new kind of development. I'm also concerned about the configuration of the drive-through because it cuts through the pedestrian area of that site on the north side. I really believe that you need to separate the cars from the pedestrians, and we have the drive-through going right through a pedestrian area. So I think that presents some safety issues, but also disrupts that pedestrian experience. And I also had a concern with the office building being too tall because it's not really compatible with all the other buildings in the area. It might be 3 stories, but you're adding a rooftop to it. So that makes it 4 stories, and that really is the tallest building in the area. So I really, however, I really think the improvement is, or the development is an improvement to this site, of course. And it's so much better than a car wash. I just don't think that we go far enough in what could have been achieved in making it a more pedestrian oriented site. So unfortunately, because of those issues, I don't see how, unless we do something different with the parking, I don't see how we can minimize the amount of asphalt on this parking site. So I'm not in favor of it either, unfortunately. But I do thank you for all your work on it. I'm sure it'll be a great asset to the community.
Commissioner Douglas? You're still showing as being on mute. There you
Yeah,
go.
there it goes. I was clicking away with no result. Last month I shared Commissioner Freeman's concerns about the right in, right out and the conflict with the parking adjacent to Building A, and I think it's been resolved even better than I thought it could have been. So very happy with the solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Freeman.
Thank you. Generally my position on these things is to defer to the experts. I mean, we have to challenge where we can, but so I do thank you, and I appreciate, Jack's comment that maybe it was hard to listen to it at the time, but I really appreciate the thoughtful way that you did look at it. I mean, I'm happy to see, and I don't know that it's necessarily true because Nick has been around and knows the area, but when you do traffic studies, this property has been vacant for so long that, to really appreciate the danger and the accidents that occurred and the congestion at that intersection as you go northbound from 45 miles an hour to that property, we're at the curve and then the stoplight following. I think if you've been in the community a while, you remember what that was like, but I don't know, from a typical traffic study, how far back you look at those things. So I do appreciate, you giving that some additional attention. And I'm comforted to see that the experts now look at the revised plan as improving both safety and traffic operations, quote, unquote, and quote, will ensure that inbound vehicles from Waukegan Road will operate under free flow conditions, eliminating the potential for traffic backups onto Waukegan Road, end quote. That was important to me, and I appreciate you giving that some additional thought. And I am pleased to see that it also addressed the parking issue. And just one comment for Commissioner Arvin Ruggles, because I know you probably did watch the meeting, but I too had concerns about the parking. I was happy to see that there was a way here to pick up a few extra spots. And I think if it were not for the availability of the city lot directly across the street, and in addition to that, the city has property, as you know, just to the north of the fire station, which could also become some type of city parking were that profitable to the city or a good use of that area. So I think if it weren't for those things, I think I'd be with you on the parking issue. It does seem, I think although this use is office, my expectation would be that the people coming in for a 9 o'clock appointment, are still dealing with the people who are leaving their 8:30 appointment. And so, there is going to be a need for parking. And I do think the solutions, the off-site parking of employees and things like that, I was satisfied addressed those issues. The only thing I would say, actually two quick things. Kathy, we talked about signage last time, and I know that's really not the purview of this commission, but I would just ask that, the city take a careful look at that and anything that we can do to add signage, particularly for northbound traffic, and making drivers aware that they're entering a business district. It would highlight the business district to some extent, but for me, it would also address a potential safety issue. And then, of course, within the site, making sure that signage is focused on these issues. The last thing that we did talk about was the special use for the drive-through. And admittedly, initially, my inclination was to give the petitioner more flexibility. But the more I thought about it and looking at the special use ordinance, the more I started thinking that, since these are typically given to operators as opposed to owners, that the neighbor should have an opportunity to speak to that for a future plan commission if the use is different. But I think it's just a concern I have. It's not something that I would say if other commissioners felt strongly about providing the owners more flexibility, that would be a deal killer for me. So I'm supportive of it. And again, I appreciate the attention to this detail. I think it'll serve the city well going forward.
Thank you. I have a few comments as well. Having gone through the earlier presentation with the car wash, my major concerns were making sure we had access from further east on Everett, and making sure it was a compatible use, a good neighbor to the residential areas, and really being careful about the hours of operation as well, given the fact that you have a church, a school, and the fire station, train crossing across, right across the street. I too, as Commissioner Artman Ruggles pointed out, I too was concerned about the parking and addressed that in the September meeting. And I felt assurances when 2 letters were received from existing tenants in Building C who use parking spaces across the street at St. Patrick's now. Their staff members have no issues with that. And also for prospective tenants that they had said their staff is okay with parking at the train station, that's what they're used to now in their current location. Because I did have a concern about being able to attract tenants. So as I think Commissioner Moorhead said last time, we don't have a transit-oriented ordinance, but this gives us a very good opportunity to take advantage of the vacant spaces across the street at the train station, which should allow this property to be successful. One point I didn't see in the staff recommendations is I did request a notice to the city within 10 or 15 days if the St. Pat's arrangement is voided for any reason. And I would like to see that just so we're aware. And I'm sure we will continue to assess the parking, but for what has been a very difficult site, I'm looking forward to seeing this particular development moving forward. And I'm also looking forward to either federal or state money to make the improvements to the Waukegan Road, Everett Road intersection. Any other comments, concerns?
I would just add one comment in regards to the parking, and maybe this is for Commissioner Artman Ruggles, who wasn't at the last meeting, and like you, and it's been expressed by others, there was the concern for the parking, but there is the agreements that are in place that Commissioner Kerr just referenced to with St. Pat's and Lake Forest Bank and Trust. And in addition to that, there's 574 spaces across the street in another lot. And there's also, it doesn't seem like there's any issue from the current 1025 building. And we talked about that at the last meeting as well. And finally, and I think maybe most importantly, the city has the precedent of offering variances in the Waukegan Settler Square Business District previously. So it would be unfair to this petitioner if the variance in regards to the parking space wasn't made. And I think now that we've added 2, by my count, I think the site is only off by 45 spaces. But I think that can be certainly absorbed by the 574 spaces that are across the street, plus the agreements that are in, and that does not include St. Pat's and the Lake Forest Bank and Trust agreement. So I'm comfortable, and maybe hopefully that might change your mind, but I think that there is adequate parking at this site based on that information.
Any other comments from commissioners? Then at this point, I would entertain a motion.
I'd make the motion. I'd make a motion authorizing the redevelopment of the southeast corner of Waukegan and Everett Road intersection with a small retail building and a 3-story medical office building, specifically authorizing the professional offices on the first floor of the office building in the B1 district, a drive-through facility specifically for a coffee shop type business, a variance to allow the small portion in the southeast corner no more than 4 feet encroachment on the 20-foot setback, a variance to the required parking standard for this space, and approval of the overall site plan. And included in that, I would make the recommendation that we follow the other conditions that staff has laid out.
Second.
And I just want to make sure we make a note that the Archdiocese agreement, we would like to have notice in there if for any reason it should end.
I would add that to my motion. Thank you, Commissioner Kerr.
All right, I've heard a second. All those in, I forgot my mallet tonight. All those, actually we should have, is it Michelle available for the roll call?
No, it's only me tonight. That's why
Okay,
a little sloppier than usual. So I will do a roll call vote, Chairman, if you're ready for that.
I am.
Commissioner Moorhead,
Aye.
Commissioner Atkinson,
Nay.
Commissioner Artman Ruggles,
Nay.
Commissioner Dixon,
Aye.
Commissioner Freeman,
Aye.
Commissioner Douglas,
Aye.
Chairman Kerr.
Aye.
The motion passes 5 ayes, 2 nays. The motion passes.
All right, then we move on to our next piece of business, which will be an opportunity for the public to address the Plan Commission on matters not on the agenda. Are there any other items to discuss?
We don't see any callers, nor do we see any hands raised. If you had a chance to look at the meeting schedule for 2021, we would appreciate a motion. We'll get those dates published. Obviously, we will poll for every meeting, and in the event we don't have a quorum or there are no agenda items, the meeting will not be held.
Right.
Kathy, we do have a hand raised in the audience.
Oh, we do have a hand raised?
Okay.
Cam, do you want to bring that person forward to speak?
Yes, I have granted ability to speak to Rami Lopez.
Go ahead, Ms. Lobat.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to give you some observations tonight. I want to
Hi, Rami, I do have to swear you in. Do you solemnly declare and affirm that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Thanks. Thanks for allowing me to give you some observations on your review process. I'm going to use the Phase 3 McKinley process as an example of how your process ends up giving everyone a migraine by the end of a meeting. As you probably know, I have read every set of minutes, sometimes many times, back to 2011. That's minutes from the City Council, the BRB, the HPC, the Plan Commission, and the Library Board. I have put in multiple FOIA requests. I've come before all the public bodies to ask questions. I think only Kathy Cerniak and I have paid, only Kathy Cerniak has paid more attention than I have to this neighborhood. So here are 6 suggestions I have for you tonight. First, the way your meetings are organized on complex matters leads only to confusion and lack of resolution. Did you ever go back and try to read 20 pages of your minutes and still not find what you're looking for? It's impossible to find source citations, your technical discussions of density formulas, or the square footages of city-owned lots used in those density formulas. The minutes obfuscate, they don't illuminate. I want to read and know if you discussed whether the project should be allowed to have a departure so it can cover more than 30% of its lot area. Why isn't such an important consideration in the minutes? Did you ever get around to discussing this? You probably didn't, because of distractions caused by a conventional, conversational meeting style. I suggest that you reorganize your meetings and take up one topic at a time, including precisely how the plan has changed, or graphically showing us how the plan has changed, or even showing us where the property lines, something simple like the property lines are. Identify those topics at the beginning. Finish out your questions and your recommendations on that topic, and only go on to the next topic after the first is resolved. The next topic might be open space in the first ward and how Westminster contributes. Write down each resolved finding for an overall list at the end. Figure out what you missed. Then take a break and review, accept, reject, or refine everything, including what isn't resolved, in a holistic way. Second, similarly, I think staff evaluations lead to confusion because of their narrative format. Again, it would be far more constructive and less time-consuming to follow an orderly list of the statutes and the calculations necessary to come to conclusions. The city code should be cited neutrally and factually, and then you, not the staff, should draw the conclusions. Third, ask for documents if you need to understand the issue. Don't just rely on a staff interpretation of the property's purchase agreement, for example. Indeed, I would commend each of you to still read the specifics contained in Terms for a Land Swap Exhibit E, approved in January 2017. These terms are the basis for the purchase agreement that no one's allowed to read. So where did 14 units come from? Or 6? Or is it 7? Are the terms still in effect, or did they expire? How did the purchase agreement amend the terms that the City Council approved? Fourth, I ask that the staff stay more neutral in describing petitions to the public. Here's an example. A FAQ published on January 29th and still posted on the city's website begins with this basic question. What is the McKinley planned development? It answers the question using these words: transforming, cohesive, in the best interest of the overall community, because nearby residents support the vitality of the business district. Please avoid overt bias. Fifth, if you rely on past events such as the 2011 cultural corridor recommendations or the development parameters or the special use criteria, please check and see if they are quoted properly, are inclusive of all recommendations, or were even adopted. Sixth, at its last meeting, the City Council directed you to go back and determine if this is the best possible development with the property with the best possible transition, with zoning in it or not, and including the library. Now I ask, how are you going to do that? First, will you revisit your zoning decision first, or is that double jeopardy because you already denied it? Will you say for sure that the Donovan property must stay wholly as a single family? Or will you put a moratorium in the condo proposal because while the library sends you some drawings? I don't know. Your process to come is a tough thing to figure out. But at the very least, in my opinion, you need an independent planner to help, even down to the basics. Mr. Whitmer uses a plan with a different scale than the library is using. And there's more to look at. The 8 parking spaces in the Whitmer plan evaporate because there's a roadway there in the library plan. So as a looker, as an onlooker and a looker, I recommend, ladies and gentlemen, that you retain a consultant that can help you. You're volunteers, you're asked to spend hours and hours and hours on controversial decisions. So I hope you'll discuss improvements to your process and recommend that your chairman work them out with staff for an improved process. Make my migraine go away. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it always.
Thank you. I'm going to ask Kathy Cerniak to comment on the structure of the Plan Commission meetings.
My suggestion, because that testimony referenced a matter that will be back before you, it probably is not appropriate to have a discussion since this meeting wasn't noticed as an opportunity to comment or for the commission to discuss that item. I just think we should be careful around that issue right now. But happy to address it as the matter comes forward or in general.
Okay, so we thank you for your comments, and we will see this petition coming forward in the near future, I believe. The Plan Commission schedule, we were dealing with that. I don't know, but I will ask, a show of hands, have all commissioners had the opportunity to review these dates? I know they came out late. They're also on the newly improved City of Lake Forest website.
I'd make a motion to accept those dates for the Plan Commission for 2021.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor of approving the commission dates as listed, say aye. Well, we have to ask for a roll call again, sorry.
Commissioner Douglas,
Aye.
Commissioner Freeman,
Aye.
Commissioner Dixon,
Aye.
Commissioner Artman Ruggles,
Aye.
Commissioner Atkinson,
Aye.
Commissioner Moorhead,
Aye.
and Chairman Kerr.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Any other further business? Seeing none, the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you all.
Thank you.